left that place and came to his hometown, and his disciples followed him. On the Sabbath he began to teach in the synagogue, and many who heard him were astounded. And they said, "Where did this man get all this? What is this wisdom that has been given to him? What deeds of power are being done by his hands? Is not this the carpenter, the son of Mary, the brother of James and Judas and Simon? And are not his sisters here with us?" And they took offence. Then Jesus said to them, "Prophets are not without honour except in their hometown and among their own kin and in their own house." And he could do no deeds of power there, except that he had laid his hands on a few sick people and cured them. And he was amazed at their unbelief. And this is so famous that we have a term now that's understood: prophets are not welcome in their own kingdom.
And that's really true, isn't it? True. When you think of how many times even you or I have said something and spoken about something, and people have not taken all that much notice, and then weeks or months or sometimes years down the line, someone says, "Oh, we should be doing so. What about such and such?" I think, well, that was what I said about 5 years ago.
Yes. If you are well known to a community, to a group of people, there's no expectation that you will be the great prophet.
Which probably is inviting us to look at the way we treat people who speak the truth in their society.
Yes.
You know?
Who speak against what is happening in a society, against power. Yes, we don't allow a prophet to be critical. We want a prophet to prophesy what is
good
right and proper and good. Yes, we don't want the prophet to be critical, analytical. Yes.
And I think that even happens in public life too. Sometimes you hear people speaking out in public life about injustices and things, and a lot of people say, "Oh, there they go again, they're on their hobby horse."
Yes.
And 2 or 3 years later, society has turned around and said, "Well, actually, that needs attention."
And if you've got a true prophet, they're going to stay on their hobby horse. You don't get into seeking justice and give it up on the weekends.
No.
It's not a thing that you can walk away from.
And I guess too, the test of whether you're a prophet or whether you are just a hobby horse person is whether you do it with the fruits of the Spirit, with wisdom and peace and patience and kindness, you know.
Yes.
This prophet can speak strongly, but he or she is going to speak with an awareness of others and a gentleness that gets their message out. You do sometimes get civil rights people or justice people who speak so strongly that they put people off.
Yes.
And their message is not heard because of the way it's delivered.
Yes. You can't break the or bruise the person you're addressing. If you want to bring them with you, you want to bring them in all their goodness with you. Yes.
And Jesus tried to do that.
That's right.
But
yes.
His people wouldn't listen to him, and he was hamstrung, wasn't he? He couldn't do the works of power that he wanted to do because people wouldn't come along with him.
They were opposed because he wasn't from the right family. He wasn't from a prophetic lineage, perhaps, because they knew his home.
Or
they knew the carpenter
family.
he came from. Yes, that's right. They say it was a middle class occupation, but certainly in his own hometown, Joseph and Mary mustn't have made ripples.
No.
Because their son wasn't going to speak in the synagogue and be listened to.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that happens. That happens.
And so he would have been in his 30s when he was doing this. It was near the beginning of his public ministry, so they reckon he'd be about 30.
Yes.
And I think, well, who in our church community, who in our civic community is in their 30s now and saying things, and we're not listening because we say, "Oh, you don't really know, you haven't got enough years behind you."
That's right. You're wait until you've got a few grey hairs and we'll be able to listen to you. We are denying ourselves the wisdom of youth. There is wisdom in youth. They've got different eyes, different ears.
I love talking to young people about how they see things going and what they reckon we should be doing, because sometimes there's such a different insight, and I think, heavens, I never would have thought of that.
Yes.
And then I think when I was young, how I used to look at the older people and think, why don't they just do something? Why don't they know this,
yes.
you know?
Yes.
And we don't. As we grow
That's
older,
right.
our vision becomes, even though we get more knowledge, our vision becomes more constricted in some way.
Yes.
At least I think it often does. It doesn't have to.
And we're not
but
as
it does.
ambitious to change the world.
That's
We've
right.
lived
Yes.
our life and found ourselves being able to survive in the conditions that prevail. And if you've been knocking your head against a wall for a long time,
Yes.
you don't feel like any more headaches.
Yes, that's right. And
the young
that's
say, good, we
understandable.
can change the world, we will do it. Yes.
Yeah.
And Jesus represented that element.
So maybe like this is in, you know, it's the Bible, it's within our religious setting. Maybe we've got to think about this in relation to our parishes and our church communities. What welcome do we give to younger people?
Yes.
And how do we ask them to join in and contribute and make a difference?
That's right. And do we listen to them and say, well, that's an interesting thought we've never had before, but we're going to consider it.
Yes.
Not we're going to take you out to the pinnacle and throw you down.
Or tell us more about what you're saying, and
yes.
let's unpack it without making premature judgments.
Yes,
you know?
yes,
Yeah.
yes. I think that's true. Jesus is speaking for a newness. He was bringing a new concept, and there was no open arms.
No, that's right.
Yes, it does speak to us.
Yeah, that's a great thing to think about.
Yes,
reflect
yes. We've put a lot out of that.